Now with all our components reorganized here and having them with different selectors and in a nice folder structure, there's one other thing I want to mention. We're not using the style right now. We're not applying any styles. Now let's change this. Let's add some styling. Let's say the server details here. There we do have a div, and I want to give this div, let's say, a border of 1 pixel solid and red. And then in my servers here, I want to set up a div style for this wrapping div where I set up a border of 1 pixel solid and blue. That might not be super beautiful, but let's see how this looks. Oh, everything is red now. Well, the issue is I only set the red style here on the server details. Why is everything bordered red now? Why was every div selected? The reason for this behavior is that we're not scoping the styles, which means the styles are not contained in this component. By default, any style we set up in any component will be applied globally, like in a global style sheet. Now that might not be the behavior you want, and you can easily override it by adding scoped to the style tag here in your component in this single file template. And that will work in any single file template. So I'll do the same here in my servers. And we head over, you see now we got the borders only around the divs where we want to have them. Reload the page if you're not seeing this. So with this, we're now containing the styles we apply in a single file here, in a view file, to the content of this view file, to this HTML template there. Behind the scenes, this emulates a behavior known as the shadow DOM. The shadow DOM basically means that in upcoming browsers, basically, the DOM in there, each element has a DOM behind this element. So you not only have one global DOM, but many sub-DOMs, so that your H1 tag, your normal HTML tag, could have a different style in one place than in another place, because there are two different DOMs behind each of these H1 tags. Well, that's something which we will probably see in the future. Vue.js emulates it today, and we can see how it emulates it if we inspect this. So if we inspect this div with the blue border, we see we have this strange attribute being added to it, data minus v minus and then some ID. And the same is true for the div with the red border. Here we also got such an attribute with a different ID though. You'll see the ID stays the same within each component, but changes across components, like here between the two different components, red and blue bordered. Now here we clearly see it. This attribute, which was added by Vue.js, we didn't place it there, is important. It's of course not a default HTML attribute, but it's also not one which is in conflict with any default attribute. Indeed, it's using the default HTML data attribute, which allows us to attach custom data to an element, so it's in line with a good HTML style. But where do we use this attribute for? Well, the styles we append here in our single files are in the end pulled up into the head of our document. This is why here we see all these styles we set up in these single files attached in this head section of the document. This is something Vue.js does for us. Now here you see an empty style, but once we click on the style of the blue and the red border, these two here, you see the red border and the blue border. This is the reason why before we only saw the red border, because this style comes second, so it overrides the other style. And this makes sense because we load these server details after the servers, because this is how we order them there. Servers is loaded first. So this is how they are ordered, and now you see Vue.js added something to our selector. It's now not only selecting by div, instead it's selecting by div and the attribute. And this of course is the attribute it also added in the bottom, so to our divs. This is how it emulates this behavior, that our styles are only applied to the elements in a certain component. It adds our styles in the head section. It does this always for all our files, which is the reason why we have these empty style tags here for the other components, the other files we're using. And then for the files where we have scoped added to our style, there it adds this ID to both the selector and the element in the DOM, so that now the style is indeed scoped. That's something to keep in mind and something to use if you want to make sure your styling only gets applied to one component.